Galactic!
DRG is just one of those games that has so much love put into it. Often I get lost in thought about the foundations that make up this game. The interactions between the game and the player, and the sheer amount of customization available really shows the potential within a team when they really care about something that they're creating. I've been playing DRG for a fair bit, ever since November 2021. And I only recently came back to wipe off the dust and grab the last 2 achievements I needed to get my hands on. But that was 5 years ago, and since then I've been itching to make a full video on DRG after I completed it. Although, this is not a beginner's guide or a deep dive into the game, but this is more of a way to lay out my thoughts on the game after holding on to all this info for so long. It's only been so long, and it feels like it makes sense to give the game a proper send-off after I finished it. DRG, on its own, has always been a very convoluted game. It has many details that go into it, and many intricate mechanics that sometimes they don't even directly tell you. The game has been driven by that force for a long time now, and when it comes to factors like cave gen, to all the kind of enemies that spawn within them, it's always made sense that the game has kind of been a little bit confusing, especially to new players. It's a good thing, though, that the progression was always well thought out. You know, it's not perfect, but it's still much better than most live service games that we've seen now. DRG has been able to stay alive for a very long time, and especially with its 8th anniversary already happened, this game's been ongoing for a long time. Speaking of the live service, DRG provides the ability to go back to any season that's existed prior to the current. Whether you're new or you haven't played in a while, you're still able to go back to seasons that you might have missed just because you're able to. Having this ability to go back whenever you want is such a player-friendly addition to the game. It's honestly amazing that other games haven't chosen to do this. Nothing is FOMO, and you can't miss out on any items ever. You're able to go back through the season pass and gain items that you might have missed on the previous battle pass. And the best part is, items that came with the season but weren't in the season pass are now put into cargo crate pools, which are crates that are seen within caves on occasion that will have just a random cosmetic within them, whether it be a weapon paint or it be a beard. Any cosmetic that the dwarf can wear are usually put in that if they're unsorted. But what makes it so amazing is this is so friendly to new players. Nobody misses out on anything, and everyone can have what they want, which is a good thing in the long run, especially for a game like this. This feature alone, when it comes to the live service, has put DRG a huge leg up against many games that we see now. You know, games that you might know like Fortnite and other games usually tend to make things only accessible in one case ever. So they either put them behind a paywall or a limited window to obtain them. But DRG hasn't felt the need to do that. And you could miss out on stuff and still be able to get what you want. I'm still not sure why the industry as a whole hasn't really looked on DRG at all. I just don't ever understand of how the concept of FOMO is just allowed in games. But you know how it is. Companies can be greedy, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. DRG's setting as a whole, moving on to the story, can only be described as visually stunning. Almost everything down to a piece has been designed and worked on to keep so many details and intricate moving parts within their environment. Whether it be vibrant colors or different forms of cave gen, the world never really seems to be quiet. There's always something living in these caves, and you'll notice it from the world around you. There doesn't even need to be enemies that make it appear lively. Plants, fauna, even the rocks and just the general terrain in the environment help it stay lively because each biome and each environment is independent to their own. Honestly, this game can still even amaze me, and I've played for a very long time. Some of the caves that this game can generate are genuinely insane, and I have come across some gigantic caves in my time of playing the game. But it's not just the caves that make it up, it's also the enemies. Even though the enemies aren't exactly what keep the caves alive, they're the main threat of the game, and they're what make up the rest of the threats on Hoxus. For the longest time, the Glyphids, the enemies that we know them as in DRG, have been a constant pushing force between DRG's attempts at taking over the planet. To put it simply, DRG has been attempting to run a mining operation on Hoxus. Known for its riches and materials, it was a gold farm just waiting to be harvested. It's day one. These bugs have been a constant nuisance since the game's release, chewing up our pipelines, our gear, and our dwarves. The design of the bugs themselves truly give them their own identity, though, and make them heavily recognizable from the massive crowds the game sends after you. You could recognize certain bugs just from their sounds alone. Some might have their silhouettes, and it could be comparable to TF2 levels of the way you can recognize them. It's honestly kind of amazing. Even in the dark, I can recognize some enemies, and I don't even need a light source. But that's different because I've been playing for a long time. It might be difficult for some, but it's definitely hard to miss certain enemies within DRG. Each biome also has its own respective enemies. You won't always see the same Glyphids regardless of where you are in Hoxus, because each biome is set up into different areas, and I like the way that Ghost Ship treated this. Each enemy is specific, and there's even Glyphid variants to not get the same enemies within the same biomes. For example, Glacial Strata has a frost version of the Glyphids, and it does actually give them a weakness. They're weaker to fire effects than their normal variants, or the ones that you would see in Magma Core, because Magma Cores are resistant to fire. But it's interesting because so many of these bugs have been designed with their biomes in mind, and not just making enemies and having them appear anywhere. There are definitely a few cases of enemies that can appear specifically, but it really diversifies the game's effects, and it keeps it interesting instead of seeing the same enemies wherever you go. But don't think you're heading into such a dangerous planet alone, because you're not alone. You got 4 dwarves with their own level of expertise, and they're the main set of the workers that are heading down to the riches of Hoxus. Gunner brings the steel, and the firepower to back his team. He has a shield generator to protect his team, God forbid things get too risky. Scout leads the way, but with a lighter loadout, and he takes that point quite literally, equipped with a flare gun to be the eyes and the ears of the team, and sometimes the bug bait. Driller paves a path for his team to get from A to B with his handheld drills, and he's equipped with a flamethrower to ensure his paths stay clean from intruders. You don't want no bugs intruding on your caves. And the engineer being able to lock down sections of the caves, and just because he's an engineer, don't think that he doesn't have his own set of teeth to bear. He's got a shotgun and a grenade launcher to really stick it to the bugs that he wants them to stay out and away from his team. From when I played, it's become more apparent that there isn't necessarily a bad class, just bad starting points. NG and Scout are 2 of the main ones that struggle from this, as their weapons are inherently weaker than Driller and Gunner. But as soon as they get their hands on a few upgrades, they can be on the same level as the heavy classes. They just suffer because Gunner, for example, has high DPS and doesn't necessarily need upgrades to make his weapons good. But when you're dealing with a shotgun and a normal assault rifle with heavily armored bugs, it kind of gets difficult. Each class has their own movement tool, whether it be a zipline, a platform gun, or a grappling hook. These are still movement tools that each class has, and with Driller, he also has the drills, his handheld drills. All of these movement abilities help maneuvering around the caves much easier. Specifically Driller too. He can terraform the entire area if he so chooses. He's got a C4 and drills just to make it easier for the rest of his team. But it doesn't make him necessary. Scout is able to move around the cave with his grappling hook. He's definitely very capable of getting up into high places and moving around. Engineer can create platforms to create bridges or close in spots that might be too dangerous for the team to risk falling down. Gunner has a zipline, and although it's not the strongest of the movement ones, it does articulate some good vertical movement regardless of whether some people think it's bad or not. There are ways to treat it. The way to treat it is simple. Each of their tools can be treated like an ingredient to a sandwich. If you have a gunner and an Engie, you have a sub. You have the meat and you have the cheese. But if you're a move gunner, for example, you still have the grilled cheese. If you have a team with more than one gunner, you have an extra steak sandwich. All classes work together regardless of team comp. All they need is the bread to hold them together. Each classes can hold their own, and you can very well do a mission with just one class. But when all of them are present, it makes things a lot easier. Teamwork as a whole is an integral part of this game, and you can still play single player. There is no downside to playing by yourself, and DRG even gives you a buddy, Bosco, a flying robot to help you if you're playing solo. The game doesn't ever want you to be alone, because if you're alone, then you're alone with the bugs, and you know about how well that would go if you're familiar with the game. You never want to be by yourself. The work can get stressful. But I do want to mention that it's not just the multiplayer and the environment. The world itself is very lively, and almost every interaction that you see within the game is mostly player instigated. Voice lines are a big player into this, and each dwarf has their own lines for even very specific interactions. Either it be because you pick the class, or it can be reactions to NPCs, or even pinging NPCs, pinging anything. You have a pointer in the game, and it is used to display information about certain things, but when I mean you can ping almost everything, you can ping almost everything. One good example would be the voice lines for taming a Glyphid with the Glyphid Tamer perk. Even again, this is what I mean by specific cases. It's not going to be a perk that you have equipped all the time, but the fact that voice lines and interactions were recorded for this show the care that the team really put into each and every interaction you have in the game. Despite the dwarves hating the bugs, the second they don't have one that doesn't want to tear them to shreds, they instantly treat it like a really oversized dog. They're even willing to pet the damn thing, which gets you lines like,
"Huh? For a bug, I guess you're kinda cute."
Personal favorite you can get while taming.
Stevie, I wonder.
Even the robots that DRG hands to you appear to be alive because of their animations. Molly's sounds, and Bosco's interactions from when you salute to him, each of them give them their personality, and they're not even living creatures like the dwarves. They're not living. It makes them appear sentient, though. A lot of DRG's animations is what gives things their charm and personality, even if that charm is trying to bite you in the arse. As I've stated before, the environment that you play in can vary from biome to biome you have to pick from. There's a few of them in the game, and recently with Season 6 we got another one, which makes up the Osseran Depths. But all of these biomes are destructible, and you can maneuver through them however you choose. You're a dwarf after all. Who's going to stop you from digging a hole? But in all honesty, the ability to have this level of destruction within the games, from drilling, explosions, it's honestly such an achievement, because not a lot of games can compare to Minecraft and Terraria's levels of destruction. It's honestly amazing. It keeps the game fresh, as no cave is ever truly the same, and they all generate differently. You have different ways of maneuvering through them and burrowing your way through them. Even certain biomes have certain generation rules that have them apply certain effects and appear differently compared to the others. So they don't just act like a paint job to mimic the effects of a different biome. They all have their own fauna and hazards you must avoid if you want to get out of the caves alive, or at least with the very least without the smell of bacon coming from one of your teammates. This game has had a big impact on how I see other games that aren't developed by larger studios. DRG as a whole has proven itself time and time again that when you have a team that actually cares about their game, the game really shows a certain type of love to its players and its player base. There's never really one point when I've played this game where I hate it. The difficulty can be hard, and sometimes the game can really be challenging to the player. Your team can struggle on some missions, and that's up to the game. But the struggle doesn't have to be hard. It's not unfair, but it definitely is difficult. They want to keep the game the way they want to, and they don't want to sell out. If DRG sells out, I don't know what I would do, because this game is genuinely one of the few that I find amazing. Everything that makes up Hoxus, its story, its environment, the bugs, everything from down to a T is amazing, and I hope that on the horizon there are good things to come. DRG likely has more to come as time goes on, and with Rogue Core soon to release, I'm only hoping that we get more things to sink our teeth in. Rogue Core on its own, from what I've seen, is looking like an amazing game, and I will definitely play the same amount of time I've put into DRG. This studio and team has proven time and time again that you can make a game that you love if you try hard enough. And this game has already had tons of longevity with the gear and everything else that they give you. This game has managed to survive even 2 years without an update or a patch between 2024 and 2026, when we were waiting for Season 5 and Season 6. It was a long gap between the time of the update releasing. And when Rogue Core eventually comes out, I'm really hoping that DRG doesn't get left in the dust. This game has had quite the impact on people, and it was an important time when it came out. It was during COVID. People playing this game during COVID gave it a really cult-like appearance to some people, and I find that funny because rock and stone has definitely been ingrained in some people's brains who were playing DRG around that time. This was one of the best games that could have released during that time, and it definitely deserves its keep in my heart. Following the next episode, I'm going to focus on talking about the bugs more. They do have details about them that I always found interesting, and I don't think some people really get to appreciate the design of the enemies, because most of the time you're killing them. Which you definitely should be. They're trying to bite you. You gotta bite back. But for now, that'll be all, miners. Rock and stone.